I will now share a story of Mirela Čavajda with you. At 24th week of pregnancy, Mirela Čavajda was told her baby had a fast-growing tumor. The fetus would not survive or would be born with catastrophic defects. Croatian laws allows abortion in such cases. Yet, Mirela turned to 4 hospitals in Zagreb, 2 refused outright and 2 never answered. Days passed. The tumor had kept growing. She was left without support, without information, and without psychological help. Desperate Mirela crossed the border to Slovenia. 3 doctors performed the termination, but as a foreign patient, she had to pay around 5,000 euros. In Croatia, more than half of public hospitals, gynecologists refuse to perform abortion, citing conscientious objection. Some hospitals have no doctor at all willing to help. Mirela's ordeal showed that in Croatia, abortion rights exist only on a paper. In practice, women are abandoned, forced to fight for basic care or to leave the country.
I will share a story of Andrea Prudente. In June 2022, American woman Andrea Prudente was 16 weeks pregnant when she began bleeding heavily while on holiday in Malta. Doctors confirmed her uterus had broken and the placenta detached. The pregnancy could not survive. But Malta then had a total abortion ban. Doctors told Andrea they could not do nothing while the fetus' heart was still beating. For a week, she was left in hospital, at risk of infection, forced to wait. Finally, her travel insurance arranged an airlift to Spain. The doctors immediately performed the termination. Andrea lived, but she left Malta traumatized. Her case became global news, exposing the cruelty of laws that deny women treatment even when survival is impossible. Andrea had her husband and her husband are now suing Malta, arguing that its abortion ban violated her human rights.
I'm going to tell you the story of Isabella. Isabella was 30 and 5 months pregnant when her water broke. She was admitted to the hospital in September 2021. Tests showed she had an infection. Doctor refused to act while the fetus' heart was still beating. So they waited as Isabella grew weaker. The infection spread. By the next day, the fetus has died. Only then did doctors perform a cesarean section, but it was too late. Minutes later, Isabella suffered cardiac arrest and died. Her final message to her mother said, "They can't do anything. They have to wait until the heart stops." Isabella's death shook Poland. She became the face of what happens when doctors fear the law more than they protect women's lives.
Welcome to the press conference of My Voice, My Choice community. Today is a very big day today because we had the first official meeting with the European Commission. We were able to present our proposal for safe and accessible abortion in Europe to European Commissioner Bobić. She is not yet allowed to give us any answers because the procedure is that the final answer will come in the beginning of March. And because of this, our meeting was focused on us explaining our initiative and on us presenting our demands to the European Union. What we know for sure is that 20 million of women in Europe do not have access to safe abortion. What we know for sure is also that abortion bans do not prevent women from having abortions. We know that when abortion is being banned, people will find their own ways to do abortion, which can lead to severe health complications and also mental issues and additional stress. What we are proposing to the European Union is an opt-in mechanism, which is not mandatory for all the countries in the European Union. It is based on voluntary opt-in mechanism, which will enable European citizens who cannot get abortion in their own countries to get it in other places. Today we are here to present you where our initiative is standing, what are our demands, and what are next steps in our journey. The first speaker today on the press conference is a doctor. She was one of the first people with whom we talked when we were preparing the initiative, and she will speak why the initiative on the European level is so important. Alicia, I'm giving you the floor.
Quality abortion care is not a luxury. It is life-saving health care, and it must be guaranteed for every person. Yet, more than 20 million women in the European Union live without access to safe abortion care. This is a preventable public health crisis. Every day, women's health and lives are put at risk in front of our eyes. As a gynecologist from Doctors for Choice Germany, I know firsthand what the negative consequences can be when people don't have access to abortion care. I've treated many women who had to travel long distances or wait for weeks to get the care they needed. I've seen women who were denied treatment because they didn't have the money or the right information, or because their doctor was not willing to help them. And I know what the consequences are if abortion care is denied. People resort to unsafe abortions, and the complications can be severe. They include heavy bleeding, infections, or injuries to the uterus. Sometimes this leads to infertility, sometimes the uterus has to be removed, and sometimes, tragically, it leads to death. But it is not only the physical health that is affected. Delays and restricted access have serious effects on mental health. They cause anxiety, isolation, and the feeling of being abandoned by the health system. The longer the waiting, the heavier the psychological burden becomes. The medical evidence is clear. If abortion is accessible, timely, and affordable, it is one of the safest medical procedures, both physically and psychologically. That is why the World Health Organization recommends removing all financial and organizational barriers to abortion care. As a doctor, I urge the EU to respect these evidence-based recommendations and to make sure they are translated into EU policy. Today, with the signatures handed over to the European Commission, people across Europe are sending a strong signal. They see safe abortion as essential healthcare and want it to be guaranteed everywhere in the European Union. This is a unique opportunity for the EU to show that it takes healthcare as a basic human right seriously. Thank you.
We know the facts, and also one of the facts which we want to present today is that My Voice, My Choice is not just a campaign. We basically created a very strong movement which will continue with our activities till the decision is made, and we will also continue with our activities afterwards. Matteo here is in his two roles. He's one of the coordinators of campaign to ban conversion therapy, but also he's one of the strongest members of our community, and he will speak about the importance of this community today.
Thank you, Nika. The 28th of September is not like any other day. It is the International Day for Safe Abortion. And here I want to underline the word safe, because you represent what is at stake today. The safety of European women in their access to abortion. All women in the EU should have access to a safe and legal abortion, but in 2025, European women still suffer from inequality in their access to abortion, depending on the country in which they were born in. That is why the European Citizens Initiative that is led by My Voice, My Choice is so important. And that is why on the International Safe Abortion Day, My Voice, My Choice, the movement, launched a letter campaign to the European Commission asking for support to ban conversion practices, for support to safe and legal abortion in the EU, and with 140,000 EU citizens joined our call, urging EU institutions to promote and defend reproductive rights in the EU and thus implement the demands of My Voice, My Choice. Thank you.
So we brought today 140,000 letters of support with us, and we handed them symbolically to the Commissioner. And we would like to speak a little bit more about this meeting with the European Commissioner Bobić, which was super important for us because of many reasons. And the first and most important is that we finally got a seat at the table and that we are now here fighting. Melody will present what we did at today's meeting and how it went.
So like Nika said, we had a meeting with the Commissioner Bobić, who could not give us the answer today about our initiative, but today was still a very much important meeting because it's one of the first key moments for the institution regarding examining our initiative. We brought colors and laughter into a very formal building, and we're kind of proud of it. The meeting began with kind and encouraging words from the Commissioner, and then Nika presented our initiative and how important it is to have safe access to abortion in Europe. We also reminded the Commission that unsafe abortion is violating basic human rights and that women are still dying today because of it. And the Commission carefully listened to us and to our demands. Then they asked us questions about our mechanism, so on a more legal step. And we were prepared for these questions, and we explained clearly what was at stake and what we have to offer. And we also addressed the improvement the Commission could do regarding the ECI collection system. We concluded the meeting with smiles and with laughter, as we do. And now we have a date on when the Commission will answer us, so it will be on the 2nd of March.
Thank you. And we still would like to give voice to two people from countries which are basically affected by the lack of access to abortion. I will ask Belle, who is from Malta, to speak, and Alicia from Italy, just because we really need to understand why it is so important that we take the actions now.
Every year, at least 500 girls and women in Malta commit what we call a crime and what the rest of Europe calls healthcare. Almost 2 times a day, a woman or a girl in Malta has an abortion. I was one of those women. At 21 years old, at the height of the COVID pandemic, I needed an abortion. Travel was restricted, and it was difficult to go abroad, not knowing whether you'd be able to go back to your country. I was lucky enough to be able to have my abortion in the Netherlands. I was lucky because it meant I didn't have to take abortion pills in Malta and risk up to 3 years in prison. Unlike Andrea Prudente, who I think I just said in 2022 was happily pregnant but faced deathly complications. Maltese doctors refused to provide life-saving healthcare, and she had to be airlifted to Spain to survive. I was lucky, unlike the anonymous girl who was raped at 16, became pregnant and walked to a suicide spot every day, telling herself that if she didn't miscarry by 4 months, she would jump. I was lucky, unlike the thousands of women in Malta who have to order pills in secret, facing abusive partners, judgmental families who would disown them if they found out, and friends they could never share their experiences with. Unlike the women in Malta, I did not have to risk my life, I did not have to lie to my healthcare provider, and I did not have to worry about a miscarriage being seen as a self-induced abortion. I was lucky because I did not, unlike a woman just 2 months ago, get sentenced to 21 months in prison for seeking healthcare. And I wish I did not have to stand here to fight for the right of women in my country to access healthcare when their lives depend on it, because it shouldn't take luck to decide safely over your own health, life, and body. But here I am, on behalf of the more than 4,000 people who signed our initiative in Malta, to remind you that the World Health Organization considers abortion essential healthcare and states that restricting it does not stop abortion, it only makes them unsafe. International human rights law is clear. Denying abortion care violates the rights to health and to freedom from inhumane and degrading treatment. The European Parliament and the UN Human Rights Committee already recognize access to abortion as a fundamental human right. So here we are, asking for abortion to be treated as what it is, essential healthcare and a fundamental right for every EU citizen. Because access to abortion shouldn't be a matter of luck. It must be safe, accessible, and guaranteed for all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia from Luca Cuscioni Association and Humans, and in Italy I coordinated My Voice, My Choice together with Federica Vinci and Matteo Cadeddu. My Voice, My Choice asks for something very concrete, the creation of a European fund to support access and to safe and legal abortion in all member states, a right which, as we know, is still denied or severely limited in too many situations. And I speak today on behalf of Italian reality, where abortion has been legal since 1978 under the law 194, but anyone familiar with the situation on the ground knows that the access is far from guaranteed. In some regions in Italy, up to 80% of gynecologists are objectors. Serious obstacles and primarily concern internal and domestic policies. And there are concrete examples in Italy where My Voice, My Choice found could truly make difference for women. The first concerned pregnancies beyond the 22nd week. I'm talking about very advanced pregnancies where the fetus could potentially survive outside the womb. In these cases of late diagnosis of severe fetal anomalies, Italian law allows termination of pregnancy only if there is a serious risk to the woman's life, and obliges the physician to everything possible to preserve the life of the fetus. In practice, this means that the fetal demands is prohibited, forcing many women to seek care abroad on their own expenses. In such situation, a European fund could provide tangible support, covering the cost of the procedure, not replace national healthcare system, but removing the financial barriers. So we ask to the European Union to listen to this request, signed by millions of citizens across Europe. In Italy alone, more than 165,000 have signed, because reproductive rights, freedom of choice, and self-determination are and must remain a cornerstone of fundamental rights in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I will ask Sara Doria to explain why this meeting today was so important and basically how we see the whole situation from a little bit of distance.
I want to start by saying that I really love this crowd and what we represent. So I see Nika, Alenka, and Nina from Slovenia, Alice from Italy, Belle from Malta, Alicia from Germany, Perrine, Matteo, and Melody from France, and so many others who are not there, but from many corners of Europe. We are Europe, not only because we are European, but because we live by the promise of Europe. The promise of a better future for anyone on the continent, no matter who they are, where they come from, and what they believe in. The promise of solidarity, standing up for what's right, and pushing each other as countries to be bold about that vision. What we created with My Voice, My Choice is building on that promise. people coming together from different parts of the continent, supporting each other and growing a movement for change, for progress, and for justice. Meeting the Commission is an important step in the process. Why is that? We are very, very proud that we were able to meet with the Commissioner this morning and to present and defend our initiative. Today is also the moment where this vision of what Europeans can do together meets with the institutions that represent them. Today is the moment where we are calling on the institution to play its role, carry the voices of the people to fulfill that promise of building a better future. We know how important it is at this moment. While around the world authoritarianism and hate become political offers, and rights and freedoms are attacked, Europe can be the beacon of hope for many and the leader in the fight for democracy and equality for all. Abortion rights and access is at the core of a democratic Europe, because what is democracy when you can't get the healthcare you need and you can't choose for your body and your future? Ursula von der Leyen said in 2019, which we reminded the Commission this morning, and I quote, "The European Commission's task in this field is to provide full support to Member States' efforts in implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals relevant to women's health, universal access to sexual and reproductive care, family planning, and education." End of quote. So we have no doubt that the commissioners and the MEPs will step up to that moment, defend our initiative, propose a bold resolution and vote in favor of its adoption. Because at the heart of this initiative is the very essence of what Europe was built for, protecting our freedoms and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. A very big part of the campaign will be happening here in Brussels, around the institutions. Noda is our coordinator of volunteers here in Brussels, and he will be the last speaker of today's conference.
So, as everybody said, the Commission has time till the March of 2026 till they provide us with the official answer. And till then, we are staying in Brussels, and we are planning to become the biggest movement this city, or I'd say this continent, has ever seen. The biggest part of our initiative of collecting signatures, of just being everywhere, were our incredible volunteers across Europe. And we're continuing to build this incredible community in Brussels as well. When I first joined this movement, the founder, Nika, told me that this whole idea is built on a friendship. And in the beginning, I didn't quite get that. But as I spend more and more time with people in my team, I've realized what she meant. It's all about people who take care of each other, people who rely on each other, and in the end just love each other. And this is exactly how I feel when I'm interacting with incredible volunteers in Brussels. You're going to see us in every cafe, in every restaurant. You're going to see us at every bar, at every community gathering place, so that whenever MAPs are leaving their offices and going to have some fun or buy a coffee or do whatever, they'll see our pink posters, they'll see our flyers, they'll see a guy, a girl, anyone wearing our shirts, so that they know that we are everywhere and we will be here for a long time, as long as it takes. Thank you so much.
What I want to say at the end is that basically When we were collecting signatures, and it was a very, very long process, we realized that the people who were signing for our initiative were very different. At the beginning, we thought that it will be mostly younger people, students, high school kids who will stand with us. But later we realized that it was so much on retired people, that people from different religious groups joined, that people from different professions and different political parties. We managed to build what we built because we found a universal value in the Europe, which is respect for reproductive rights and also making sure that the amount of unsafe abortions in Europe declines. What we want to do in the next couple of months, for us, it's very clear. We want to continue to build this diverse community in the institutions with the politicians and commissioners. We do not want to work just with one side of political spectrum. We are super happy that with us are standing proudly members of the left, members of the Social Democrats, members of the Greens, members of the Liberals, and also members of the EPP. We want to give a message to every single person who is suffering because couldn't get access to abortion. We want to give a message to families of women who were killed in hospitals that we are standing behind them, with them, and that together we will do something to change this. For us, this is only the beginning. This meeting was a first moment in the institutions. We had a lot of meetings in the European Parliament, and we will have a hearing there, and we will need to convince members of European Parliament to stand with us, and we also know the commissioners. The path will not be easy. Until now, there was not a single initiative which succeeded, but what I also know is that it's not just us, the people on this stage and the people who are talking today, but we have thousands, not thousands, hundreds of thousands, stubborn people who believe that a change is possible and that we can build more united Europe. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
I think my voice will carry. So thank you so much. That was very moving testimony. But I'm going to ask you some very drab questions. So my name is Catherine Fiore. I'm with Vital Health News, Vital Science News, looks at health policy. And Melody, you mentioned a few things, and I just wanted to dig a bit deeper. Can you say something about what the very dull sort of legal mechanism questions are? Could you give us an idea of what those what was discussed? You also said that you made important observations about the ECI process itself. Could you say a little bit more about that? And on the idea of a fund for, how do you have any idea about how this would operate? How much you're asking for? Just if you had a bit more of those boring technical details for me.
I can start so that basically, like what we were discussing with the European Commission was at the beginning that we understand that competencies of European Union are very limited and that we cannot intervene in national laws of the countries. So we basically were speaking about the importance of voluntarily based opt-in mechanism for countries to establish that kind of financial support. So it basically means that the countries who will decide to do this will decide this on their own, and it will be based on a voluntary basis. The second thing which you are basically asking is about the concrete details of the financial mechanism. At this stage, we only talked about very broad suggestions, and we do not want to share them yet because we will have some additional meetings and we are just developing the things now. Today we were covering very basic things and we gave them some ideas, but we think it's better that we reveal those things when there will be the time. About the process of signature collection and the ECI, Alinka was speaking a bit about this at the meeting. We were very, we started the campaign with the impression that it will be easy, and we were so wrong, because it is super hard, because you need to give personal data to sign the initiative. You need to basically fill out a lot of things in the page of European Commission, which is very slow. And also we were describing things like in Ireland people couldn't sign the initiative because you need to put the house number, and they didn't have the house number, so they were not able to participate. We managed to change a lot of those things in the process itself, but this was basically what were some of the stuff that we were saying. Do you want to add anything, Melody? Yeah.
Thanks. So, yeah, you know me, but I'm Julia Kaiser from ARD, German Radio. So I was wondering, so before you were saying that you're happy that you are in contact or you're talking to several political groups in the European Parliament. I was wondering, given how strong the far right is in the European Parliament, do you also plan on trying, to approach them? And in general, how optimistic are you, given that there are also many conservative heads of state in the council, that any law that you might be proposing will eventually be successful?
In general, like a nature of our movement is that we are always pessimistic so that we can be pleasantly surprised. And basically we also believed that we will not be able to collect the signatures in certain moments and so on. We know what is the structure of the European Parliament, we know what is the structure of European Commission, but what we realized when we were collecting signatures is that the support is much broader than they want us believe. In the majority of European countries, reproductive rights are supported by 70% of the people. And also what we are realizing right now when we are talking with members of EPP, some of them are like very, very supportive to us, is that it's a universal value. Of course, we won't get all the MPs. We will invite everyone to a meeting because this is how we function, and we will ask everyone to meet with us. And we hope we will be able to get the support of more than half of the European Parliament. Is this possible? We don't know. Will we try? For sure. That's it. Yeah.
So just on that question of these sort of voluntary countries contributing voluntarily to a joint fund of some description. Do you have any countries that have already declared an interest in participating, and could you name them?
Yeah, so we are like the first prime minister who signed our initiative was the prime minister of Slovenia, who gave a very public support. And also we got positive signals from some of the other countries, but this is then the next step of our fight. But we know that there are countries which are like very, how to say, which have a very good laws connected with this, and who are helping like in some other aspects. Maybe Sarah, you can explain like the case in France. So these are all the stuff which are giving us hope. Yeah.
So I think we.
You can also come here.
No, I can stay here.
Yeah.
No, just we gave the example of what's happening in France. So we have the kind of medical support, state support, which called AME, Aide Médicale d'État, and abortion is considered an emergency procedure, and so anyone, even people who are undocumented people or people who are under still requiring the status of refugees, for example, can have access to this abortion care. So there are countries where there's already financial mechanism in place for people who are not citizens of the country to come and have this care. So we believe that those countries, including France, would probably be some of the supporters. We don't have yet their support, but we believe that we also gave example of Belgium, who has put together like an emergency grant when Polish women were not able to get abortion when there was like a near total ban. So there are many countries who already do some kind of mechanism, and we know they will be the one who will give good examples for other countries to follow.
Yeah. But it's a very long battle. Like we are doing this for last 2 years, and we are sure that if we get like a positive response in March, it will be additional 2 more years of our fight. But yeah, that's it. If there's no more questions, oh my God, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I think you were first.
Hi, I'm Hannah from EU Observer. Thank you for the press conference and the presentation. I just wanted to ask a little about the process of you getting here on the European stage, because as you mentioned, the Commission's powers are really limited. So how has the process been before for all of you, maybe personally, in the member states on the national level?
Of like collecting the signatures, or?
How did you, when did you and why did you decide to bring this to the European level?
Okay, so basically the decision was done, in fact, with me and Sarah. When we were in US when the the Constitutional Court took away the reproductive rights from women in the US, and we became like very much obsessed with the idea on like how to make sure that we protect what we have in Europe. So how to make sure that Europe does not become US. And then we found out that there is CCI. And then in the Slovenian team of the Institute 8 of March, we started to do a big research on like how to start the European Citizens Initiative. It was like very hard because we didn't understand how European Union function. I think we need to admit ourselves, like European citizens, we don't know the institutions and the processes. So we didn't know that there is something which is called competencies of European Union, and that European Union cannot intervene in the national legalization. So when we found out all this, we found a group of amazing lawyers who helped us prepare the initiative, and then we started to build up communities in many different countries. Maybe Melody can speak a little bit about France and how they were doing in a campaign in Strasbourg, and then also Belle and Alicia about Malta and Italy.
Yeah, because I'm a volunteer in the Strasbourg team. So we were 3 living in Strasbourg, and it was actually for the International Day of Abortion Rights. And we just stood there, we were like 20 people, and we stood in this square and we said, yeah, it's important, and support was my choice. So it started like that. And then we brought up a bigger team, and we also found allies in the town, like the drag queen community helped us a lot. And we made a lot of people sign in this town, because Strasbourg is kind of small. And then it went like all over the town, and we put stickers everywhere. And at university, you could see everyone with the laptop having the QR code. And so it built like in a few months this whole community, and we had a lot of supports there. And it was mostly with citizens and allies, like I said.
Yeah, I live in Malta. I coordinated the campaign over there. It was very difficult, not only because the smaller the country, the more difficult to get to the number of signatures, because it's relatively a lot more based on the population, but also because Malta is largely anti-abortion. It's very Catholic, and it's illegal, not just by law, but even the stigma and the judgments about abortion are very, very difficult. So I had many friends who wanted to support it, but couldn't actually go out into the streets, because if their family members saw them, or if it was public that they support abortion campaigns, they won't speak to those family members anymore. Somehow, in the end, by the time we were nearing on the last day or so, I think we were only at 75% of what we needed, which was more than 4,000 signatures. I messaged everyone I knew. I was like, guys, we're almost there. We have 1 day left. Malta works like this. It's Mediterranean, so you need a strong deadline. And everyone suddenly stepped up, like for maybe half a year or longer. I'd been trying to get people into the streets, and I got some, but not that many. And all of a sudden, everyone is like, whatever, we'll put it on our story. We'll share everyone the link and make them sign. And we managed somehow. And I was really overwhelmed, because when Nika first reached out to me and they told me we need to get more than 4,000 signatures in Malta, I told them we can get maybe 2,000. Like, that's how I thought the pro-choice community was, because it is very limited. But as we've said before, there's a lot more support than we realized, I think.
Thank you. Alicia from Italy. I coordinated the mobilization, the physical mobilization in Italy on behalf of Associazione Luca Coscioni, and I coordinated the general Italian My Voice, My Choice with Federica Vinci and Matteo Cadeddu, and we built an amazing network in Italy with over 50 associations, NGOs, and a lot of parties that support the initiative in Italy, and more than 600 volunteers in Italy with more than 55 groups of our association, Luca Coscioni, from north to south Italy. It was incredible, the network there, so I'm very proud. And this meant more 250 events in Italy. And the physical mobilization in Italy was absolutely crucial for Italy, because after the first month of collection, Italy were still below threshold. And when we have decided together to go to the streets, go to the square, that My Voice, My Choice really took off, because nothing better to speaking directly with the people, to involve people, not only with the social, they are so important, but speaking with them directly. So this is important.
For example, in Slovenia, we were very lucky. I mean, we started with the campaign, but we are one of the countries where president of the country, president of the government, and president of the National Assembly signed. So, in contrary to Belle, we had a situation where it was highly supported everywhere. So, for us, it was a very different experience. Yeah. Okay, there were also hands.
Okay. Well, just another technical question. So you said you will hear back from the Commission 2nd of March, if I remember correctly. Why does it take another 6 months?
So I think that every single ECI has the same procedure, and they have some deadlines which are written in the process. So we need to be fair to them. This is not because they would be slow or taking extra time, but it is how the European Commission functions. So basically, they have the deadline to give us the answer is in March, and before this we also need to have a hearing in the parliament, and other stuff needs to happen, and they have a lot of internal processes, so that's the reason why it is like this. But we need to be also very honest about this, is that we never had a feeling that they would be stopping us. We always felt supported in the process, and they were also helping us and explaining us stuff that we didn't understand. So here we think that it's just how the procedure works, but yeah, maybe we can do another ECI later on to change the ECI. Yeah. Yeah.
Tessa Walter, Deutsche Welle. So I'm sorry I came late, so maybe you covered this already, but I just wanted to understand properly with regards to the legislation. If I understand this correctly, the European Union doesn't have any legislation, or very little legislation, regarding abortion rights in its member states. So now that you've come to this point, what exactly is going to happen, even if the Commission, looks positively at this? Is it that you're going to campaign in your individual countries and you're going to push through that? And then my second question, if I may, having been in contact with pro-choice organizations in Germany, it's not only about legislation, it's not only about, do you theoretically have the right to get an abortion, but do you practically actually find someone who, deploys and puts this into action? And is it going to reach that far as well? And where do you see the biggest issues and the biggest problems of implementation beyond legislation?
That's a hard question, but a good one. Do you want to say? No? Okay. So basically how the procedure worked was that when we decided that we will do something with reproductive rights, we also realized that we are very limited, as you also realized. And basically, we realized that we need to find a way how to do something around reproductive rights that it falls into the supporting competencies of health in the European Union. And this is when we realized that the way what we can do is that we basically advocate for establishing a financial mechanism which will offer the opportunity for the countries who want to do this to basically perform the services for the people who cannot get abortions in their own countries. What are all the possible options of not getting an abortion? We heard a story from Malta where abortion is banned. We heard a story from Poland, which is also total ban of abortion. We were mentioning today in the Commission Italy and Croatia, where basically abortion is legal, but you cannot access the abortion. We also learned about the German situation and everything. So the idea is that the citizens from the places where they cannot get abortion because of different reasons will be able to travel. Travel won't be financed, but like the procedure in the country where basically the countries where this will be decided to do it. And why is this? Like, there is already such practices exist. For example, women from Poland have a very good network of NGOs which are supporting their travels and medical procedures, but those medical procedures are costly. So what we want to do is to establish a way that NGOs or women itself do not need to pay for this. We were also, for example, speaking about Croatia, case of Mirela at the beginning of this press conference. She was denied the access to abortion in 4 different hospitals in Croatia. She had a fetus that had a tumor, and because of this, like, she was in life danger, and she couldn't get the health service in her own country. So she was forced to travel to Slovenia and get an abortion in Slovenia, but it costed 5,000 euros. So what we want is that it's not on women or on NGOs to pay this 5,000 euros or the cost, but there is like a financial mechanism being established. About the details, we didn't go yet, because when we also proposed this to the European Commission, we were very broad, because we believe that we don't know everything, that they are the experts, and that we can do certain things together and have conversations. So I think that what we achieved today on the meeting is that there is a possibility open to have these conversations, and that we show that we do not want something revolutionary, but we want something which is totally possible in the optics of the European Union. Yeah.
Yeah, and about the financial mechanism, I just want to add that it's not something revolutionary. It already exists. There are already some financial mechanism with opt-in, opt-out. When it comes to the support competence in health, we have the EU for Health, which is a pluriannual plan, which opt-in, opt-out. Member can decide to participate or not. And there's some other opt-in, opt-out when it comes to research on rare disease. Some countries can finance research on certain disease, and not some can decide to finance and then stop, can decide to just not finance. So this is a mechanism that already exists, and we just want to create a new financial mechanism to the support competence of health, on which countries can decide to join, not join, or change their mind in the middle.
Yeah, just to your question about access is also like, you know, how it's seen and how it's supported. I think one thing that what we said this morning in the presentation we made to the Commission is that not only we are advocating for that mechanism, but the very fact we are campaigning, we are bringing that question into the public, and we are discussing it with people from many different perspectives. So I think that what we showed this morning is like 230 million, right? Am I saying the right number? Of people see our Instagram post every day, just to give an example. So we believe that this campaign is also important to increase support and to increase understanding of why abortion care is important. And this for us is like part of a long, you know, process and fight that women have done for many years to have access to abortion. So we believe there's a cultural change we're also making with this campaign, which is to say, like, it's a human right, it's a health care that anyone should be able to access no matter where they are.
And also just the fact that we were allowed to collect the signatures means that it is in the competencies of European Union. So otherwise they would deny our initiative. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.